Hello and welcome to the OET Live Class. This is E2 Language, and today we're going to be looking at OET Writing for Doctors. So let's just put that up on the screen. So welcome to the live class. Sorry, let me just go back. My name is Marie-Claire. I'm one of the expert tutors here at E2 Language. So thank you very much for joining me. So just to make everyone aware, we have, let me have a look, see who we have in the class. Please do go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box. Okay, hi there, Kwang, nice to have you in the class. So if you would introduce yourself, so tell me where you're from, and very importantly, just confirm, if you wouldn't mind, Claudia and Nanuka, that you can definitely see and hear me clearly. All right, so we want to make sure the technology is working before we get underway. Hi, Nanuka, you're in the UK, that's great, that's wonderful. Hi there, Kwang, nice to have you in the class. Okay, just checking on YouTube. So just to let everyone know, we also have some people joining us on YouTube today as well. And I'd like to remind those of you on YouTube that if you would like to join the Zoom class and put your questions into the chat box and enter into the community, the E2 language community, all you need to do is subscribe and to the channel and then go on and register for free. And then you will have access to this class. It's a free class. Okay, so if you'd like to join us in the chat box, please do go ahead and register. Okay, sign up, subscribe, and you can join us and find out a little bit more about E2 language by being able to get onto our platform. So who do we have in the class? Okay, perfect. I've got from Claudia. Thank you very much for confirming that you can see and hear me clearly. Dr. Anita, welcome. I think you're a new student, possibly. Hello, Syed. Hi, Syed from Pakistan. And we have Dr. Prab, I don't know how to say your name, I'll do my best. Prabshot Kaur from India. Okay, Mohammed from Egypt. Ali is in Italy. And Sporty, where are you from, Sporty? Let us know. Okay, great name. So like I said, if you're just joining the class, my name's Marie-Claire. We are also streaming live to YouTube. So hello to our YouTube viewers as well. If you would like to join us, just subscribe and go and register at E2 Language, and then you can come to this class. It's a free class, okay? So just to give you a taster, if you want to be able to contribute, chat with the other students and put your questions in, that's the way to do it. Welcome, Ildiko from Hungary. Hello, Pana. So I need to get started, guys, because as usual, we have a lot to get through. Now, just for those of you who are already signed up to our power package, I just want to, first of all, say I hope you're finding it really good value and that it's being very helpful in terms of your preparation for OET. And secondly, I'm going to be putting a reminder up because we're in week 3 of the challenge where you are invited to take the mini mock test, but that needs to be submitted. You've only got a few hours left. I'm going to put the time limit on the screen in just a moment. For those of you who are new to E2 language, the power package is a great package which basically includes everything on the screen. Plus, you will have access to all the materials on the E2 language platform, which is overview lessons, method lessons, formatting, practice questions in all of the 4 subtests. And you have access, once you've signed up to the power package, you have access to that package for 6 months. So as I mentioned before, those of you who are participating in this month's challenge, week 3, okay, of the May challenge, which ends, we've got the time on the screen here, this is Melbourne time, so you've got a couple of hours left, is to submit your mini mock test, and that will make you eligible to win one of our prizes. There are 3 winners going to be selected, so if you'd like to get your mini mock test in today, if you're already on the power package and you want the chance to win a $50 MasterCard voucher, make sure you get it in before the deadline. Okay, so moving on, just to make you familiar with some of the things that we offer here at E2 Language. So we do the live classes, of course, we put them out every day of the week, and we do repeat classes on the weekend for those of you who are working and unable to join during the week. So this is a repeat class, just to make that clear. We're trying to sort of make it available and as convenient as possible. So one of the things in the packages, okay, you'll see in the power package and also on our other packages, you can get what we call a writing feedback. So you're given a set of case notes, you're given a task, and then you get to submit your letter, and then you get expert feedback from one of our expert assessors. So you'll get a score, but not only that, you'll get itemized feedback in terms of what you're doing well and the areas that you need to improve on. The other thing which is available to you, if you are currently on the Power Package and you feel like, you know what, I just need a one-to-one tutorial because maybe the mini mock test has thrown up an area that you are struggling with, you can just go onto the platform and book under E2 Extras. You can click on there, you can add in extras. You'll see the whole list of extras that we offer. That might be that you want an additional writing assessment, or it might be that you want to book a one-to-one tutorial, a 45-minute session with a tutor to get all of your answers, all of your questions answered. Now, if it's for writing and you can book a tutorial for whatever you like, as long as it's related to OET, of course. If it's for writing, I highly recommend having an at least one assessed letter in the system so we can put it up on the screen and go through it together in detail, okay, for any outstanding areas that you need clarification. So that's that. And then the mini mock test on the screen is that's a breakdown of basically what the mini mock test is. So you get to do all the 4 subtests. 3 of them obviously are just you book it and then you go on and submit it online. And for the speaking, of course, you'll need to, on the same page where you're submitting your writing, listening and reading, you'll need to book an appointment time with a tutor such as myself to do the face-to-face on Zoom role play section of the mini mock test. Okay, so I'm just going to have a look in my chat box for those of you who are just joining. Welcome. Hello. Welcome to the class, everybody. Lovely to have you here. If you're just joining, my name's Mary Claire. Okay, I'm one of the expert tutors here for OET preparation. And today I'm going to now put on the screen the kind of what we'll be covering in this order during today's live class. So as usual, you're more than welcome to put your questions and comments into the chat box, but I would ask you to keep your questions focused on what we're covering today in the live class, because obviously with so many students in the class, I can't just, sort of veer off in a random direction. So do keep your questions focused on the writing that we're looking at today. Okay, so first I'm going to just go over and do a basic review of some of the foundational tenses and then give you a chance to test your ability with tense selection. And then we're going to look at a method, and this is a really important, I'm going to give you a step-by-step of how to approach the writing task for writing the OET letter. So then we'll kind of go into that in even more detail, looking at how to basically analyze and break down the task, okay? Then we'll talk about selection of the relevant case notes, and I will be giving you an opportunity to do your own selection and your own reading, okay, to decide based upon what information we have from the task, okay, and we've established the purpose of why you're writing the letter, do your own selection. Then we'll be looking at the format. Today, the focus, I'm going to give you a timed writing focus on writing what we call the other details paragraph in the letter. Then I will put up a model answer. It is by no means the only way to deal with this set of case notes, but just an example, and I'll be pointing out some useful features in the model answer. Then we'll go back to look at some criteria, and it will be under language. So every week we basically change the case notes, we change the focus, we change the purpose will be different. So the more knowledge you build up in terms of how to establish the purpose, how to do the selection, and how to basically, structure and organize the letter. And we'll always have a language focus as well at the end. So today we're going to be looking at things like modal verbs, okay, how to use modal verbs and give you a little bit of practice, because modal verbs are like helping verbs. They conjugate with the main verb, but they add nuance of meaning. So it might be possibility, ability, permission, that kind of thing. So the sort of finer points of the language. So right now I'm going to put the 5 tenses up on the screen. Please feel free to take notes if you want to, but I just want to make it very clear that this is not a grammar lesson. My purpose here is to highlight some tenses, and that might throw up the need for you to do some follow-up study. if you're really struggling with tenses, to book a tutorial. But I would definitely, submit a piece of writing and see what kind of feedback you get from one of our assessors to see how you're doing on the language front. Because remember, what we're doing here at E2 Language, we're preparing you for the test, okay, the test prep and meeting the assessment criteria. So that's the clinical criteria, but also the language criteria as well. So it's kind of twofold. And obviously each student will have their own individual set of needs and possible gaps which need to be closed in terms of the language. So present simple, I require. So Mr. Lin urgently requires your expert assistance. You'll note the S on the end of the third person singular. Don't forget about that. It's a common slip when students are submitting work. Then we have present continuous, I am doing. This is for an ongoing action at the time of writing. So it's something that's in process, unfinished. It has two parts. So Ms. Adams is currently receiving chemotherapy, for example. So don't forget you're conjugating with the verb to be, with the ing for your main verb. So I am currently receiving, you are currently receiving, Ms. Adams is currently receiving. Okay, and so obviously in the letter, you're going to be dealing with the third person because you're going to be talking about your patient. Present perfect. Two main uses that come up, the most often. I could do a whole hour lesson on the present perfect, but I won't because I'm sure you're not as interested in grammar as I am. But so present perfect. So Miss Smith has been treated with cold compression therapy. So this is a completed action in the past where the focus is on the action. It's a present perfect passive. So we're focusing on what has been done for the patient with no particular time reference. So that's one use of the present perfect. Another one that's very common is when we use the present perfect with the words for and since. So those two words will throw up, think, okay, probably I'm going to need to use a present perfect if I'm referencing now. So it's for an action that starts in the past, continuing up to the present moment. For example, Mrs. Jones has been diabetic since 2010, or Mrs. Jones has been diabetic for 10 years. So those are the two most common uses of the present perfect for the OET letter. Then we have present perfect continuous. So this is basically just one added layer there to the last use I just mentioned, where it's an action that started in the past, continuing up till now, but we're adding one more layer that we want to convey, the idea that it started in the past, continued up to now, and we want to make it clear that it is indeed, this action is ongoing, it's unfinished. So that would be the present perfect continuous. So a slight sort of switch in focus because we're adding another dimension to the meaning. So Mrs. Tran has been undertaking a course of physiotherapy sessions, started in the past, continuing up to now, and they're also unfinished. They are ongoing at the time of writing. Finally, past simple. This is for very straightforward completed actions in the past, but with a past simple, there is a clear reference to a specific time at which they occurred. Okay, so the example we have here, Mr. Jones was admitted to St. Andrews 2 weeks after his operation. It's completed, finished, in the past, and we know when it happened. So I'm going to give you now a chance to have a go at testing your own knowledge of tenses. I'll pop out while you do that. There are 6 sentences to complete. Best of luck. Okay, so I can see now in the chat box, we've got your answers are going in, which is wonderful. So for the moment, I'm going to keep the chat box open so you can kind of chat with each other and compare answers. But when we get to the sections where you're doing the reading and also the writing later, I will alter the chat box so that you can work undisturbed. Okay, so thank you for putting your answers in. That's great. I'm now going to put them on the screen so that you can compare and check your own answers. So number one, please don't sit in the waiting room if you haven't made an appointment, okay? So here we're using the present perfect at some undisclosed time, okay? So we're talking about an action in the past with no particular time reference. The afternoons, number two, the afternoons get busy at the clinic, so it's best to call ahead. It's best to do something, so that it's that it is construction. It is important to do something. It is necessary to do something. It's best to do something, followed by the infinitive. Number three, Chloe was trying to get pregnant for 3 years before she came to our clinic. So both of these actions came and was trying. They're both in the past and they're both completed, but was trying was the continuous one. And then basically she was she was trying to get pregnant continuously over a period of time, 3 years, before she came to the clinic. So we've got both of those. They're both definitely happened within the past time aspect. And then number four, if her blood pressure goes down any further, we'll have to call the consultant. That's an example of what we call the first conditional, where the possibility of something is large. So the if clause contains the present simple, and the other clause is going to contain the will future. So there's a big possibility linked here. Number five, he's still drowsy because of the anesthesia, but let me know if anything changes. So this is what we call the zero conditional. We've got the if clause is in second position. You can put it in second position, or you can put it back to the beginning of the sentence. Just bear in mind, if you have the if clause at the beginning of the sentence, you need to separate the two clauses with a comma. Okay, so that's just a detail, but punctuation is something that comes up in the letter. So that's zero because we're talking about a generality, okay? So it's a kind of more general truth. If anything changes, let me know if anything changes. So he's still drowsy because of the anesthesia, but let me know if anything changes. Oh, no, it's not a conditional. It's just got half of a conditional clause. Sorry, if anything changes. So this is just kind of a general situation. Okay, so we're going to be using the present simple. Number six, Mr. Cohen's condition is getting worse, present continuous. So we're talking about something that's in process. Okay, it is, as at time of writing, it is getting worse. It is deteriorating. So it's in the process of deteriorating. It's not a finished, completed action. So like I said, I'm really just highlighting areas of grammar. I've got a question from Mohammed in here. Why not has tried? It's a good question, Mohammed. Has tried would be on one occasion they tried to get pregnant. But if it says for 3 years, we've got for 3 years, it would be something that was done repetitively over a period of time. So kind of continuously, because it's linked with for and then the quantity of 3 years. Chloe has tried to get pregnant. You couldn't use for 3 years with that. It would just mean on one occasion without a particular time reference. So it's a good question, okay? And it's a good context because I think in the context that's quite clear. Why not has been trying? Because has been trying would reference the present, and this is all in the past, okay? We're not referencing the present, we're referencing the past before she came to our clinic. So everything is completed in the past. So another good question, but it sounds like you might need to do some review on your tenses. Yeah, no, we're not going to use had tried, because had tried is when we are comparing two completed actions. One happened before the other, and we want to show in the same sentence that one was finished before the other, but they're both completed in the past. So the answer for number 3 is definitely was trying. It is a continuous action, guys. We are linking it with for 3 years. That clearly signifies that there was a 3-year period where Chloe was trying to get pregnant. She didn't just try to do it one time. Okay, but good questions. So overview. So in terms of writing the test, you are required to do these three things. So first of all, in this order, first thing you need to do when you get the case notes is go down to the end of the case notes and go to the task. You need to read and analyze it. Then secondly, you're going to read and analyze the case notes. And then you're going to write a letter of referral, discharge, or transfer. And I believe we're doing discharge today, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so you're going to get the opportunity to do a discharge letter. But I have to say that the step-by-step approach is the same for all three of these letters. Okay, so you know, the approach is absolutely the same in terms of establishing purpose and selection of relevant case notes. So reading 5 minutes. Let's break that down a little bit further. So I say this every week, but for the first 5 minutes when you are in the test, okay, on test day, you're given the case notes, you are not allowed to write anything. The focus here is on very careful reading. You need to read carefully. Do not do a superficial read. Read very carefully, read in detail. You need to carefully analyze and interpret the information that is in the case notes. So the first thing you're going to do in the task is you're going to look at who you're writing to, what's their job, what's their remit, if you like, and what action are they being asked to take for this patient. The second thing you're going to do is start reading through the case notes, which have been nicely organized in subsections with subheadings. It's a lot of information coming at you, but it's kind of organized on your behalf. So that is definitely helpful. So you're going to be reading the case notes carefully to determine what is the reason, you know, like what is the issue with the patient, the primary medical issue for which they are being either referred, transferred, or discharged, the primary reason. So then you need to kind of look at what are the key facts, you know, to expand upon this condition as you're going through the case notes. And then you're on the basis of that, you're going to then start doing your selection of what you need to include, what is relevant and what clearly can be left out, which is not necessary for the recipient of the letter. So it's all important to answer those questions, you know, who you're writing to, what is the primary issue, you know, what is it you're asking them to do, and do they have any prior knowledge of the patient? Then in terms of the writing, once you've, after the first 5 minutes, then you can definitely start to make notes on the case notes, okay? So you've made a mental decision about what you're going to be including and maybe some ideas about what you might prioritize. So you might be thinking, well, this is all relevant, but I'm going to put this in my, you know, #1 priority paragraph, secondary importance paragraph, and then maybe the other details. So start making decisions about that, because each paragraph has to have a main focus, a single theme. It mustn't be confusing to read for the recipient of the letter. It must be, okay, this paragraph is giving me top priority information about the primary condition. The next paragraph might be things which are of secondary importance or maybe relevant comorbidities. You know, you're sort of prioritizing how you're providing the information. And then at the end, you might be saying, you know what, and here's some other useful information that might help you in terms of getting a full picture of what's going on with the patient. So I'm just going to check in my chat box because I can see a few possible questions. So Nanuka is saying, what if you find a word you don't know what it means and you mean medical terms? Well, I would say the best thing you can do is to prepare as widely as possible. So these live classes, for example, are rotated on a 10-week basis. So we're kind of basically exposing you to 10 different sets of case notes. So this is where you need to be building up your knowledge of vocabulary. So anything you come across in the live classes, you can review it if you are a subscriber in our recorded classes. So you need to subscribe to one of our packages, and then you can review all of the language that comes up whenever you want and start building a sort of a compendium of all of the terms that you will be exposed to, and that is the way to prepare. So anything that comes up that you don't understand, you know, it should be that by the time you've covered all the materials, you've got a pretty good idea of the meanings of all the words that are going to come up. And of course, you can always use a good online dictionary as well. Yeah. Yes, you will be marked down if you put in irrelevant information, Kwang. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. There are a few abbreviations that were not too clear. How to build knowledge of it. Again, abbreviations are something that that was dealt with in one of the specific live classes. So again, if you subscribe to E2 Language and you want full access to all of the materials, then you can go in and start working through all of them. You need to build up your understanding and your knowledge so that you don't get any big surprises when it comes to test day. Okay, welcome, Andrea. Okay. Andrea's giving everyone a nice big good morning. So you're going to be doing the other details paragraph, but I'm going to now focus in on the 4 very important questions that you always need to ask yourself to focus and understand on what is the purpose of this letter. Then I'm going to give you some practice in reading and selecting the relevant case notes. So here we have an example of a task on the screen. Please read it carefully. I'm going to put the 4 questions on the screen, and I want you please to type in the answers briefly into the chat box now. Okay, wonderful. So I can see your answers are going into the chat box. Good job, guys. Okay, so yeah, let's just clarify, because these 4 questions, just to be very clear, this is what is going to establish a clear purpose. And when I say clear purpose, the reason for writing, which must always be immediately apparent in the introduction of your letter. So let's put the answers up and you can confirm. So the person you're writing to is the patient's GP, Dr. Arnold Zima, or Zymer. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. What action do you want the reader to take? Follow-up care. It is a discharge. Yeah, it's a discharge letter. You're discharging the patient back into the care of their GP. What does the reader need to know? They need to know about the patient's current condition, situation, and any pending test results. What does the reader already know? Has prior knowledge of the patient. So don't forget, this is important. We are writing to the patient's GP. So certain bits of information in the case notes, we can assume that the GP will already have certain bits of information, but now we need to bring the GP up to date with what's going on with his patient or her patient. So what is relevant, what is repeated, what is not relevant? We just had the question come into the chat box. Will you get penalized if you put irrelevant information? Yes. I'm sorry to say, yes, you will, because that is part of the test. You should not be wasting the reader's time with irrelevant information. You just want to be imparting, transferring the information that they need, okay, in order to carry out the requested action for this patient. So remember, as you are more than aware, healthcare professionals are very busy individuals. So we need to give them what they need, but we don't want to waste their time with what they don't need. So all key information. So after you've established the purpose, you've touched upon the purpose in the introduction, then you want to expand upon that. Going through the letter, providing all of the important details that will give a fuller picture of the issue with the patient, okay? So you can't be selective. It's either relevant or not in terms of the detail. You know, you can't say I'm going to give some details, not others. You need to give all details, okay, that are relevant, that will expand upon the detail of what's going on, the issue with the patient. So on the other side of that, under conciseness, okay, to follow up with that question, you need to make sure that anything irrelevant is clearly left out. That's part of the test, okay, under content and conciseness. So we have the case notes. They're fairly dense on the screen. I'm going to pop out and let you do your own reading and make a decision about what you will leave in and what you think could be left out. Okay, so I'm going to put you on a timer, and while you're doing that, maybe I will just adjust the chat box so as not to, so that you're not distracted by other students temporarily. Okay, so I've adjusted the chat box just while you're doing this exercise. Best of luck. Okay, hi guys. So basically you've had a chance now to read through the case notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be highlighting and discussing what we should probably include, bearing in mind the purpose of the letter. So basically what we've got here is we've got a lady who's obviously very elderly, who has had a fall. She's been admitted to hospital. She's being discharged back into the care of her GP. Okay, so we need to give some updated information to her GP in terms of her follow-up care. So this is an elderly lady living by herself. Okay, she's been a widow for quite a while. So let's go now and put the chat settings back so that you can see each other's comments and communicate and see if what you think about what I'm going to highlight on the screen now. So in red and in blue, and anything that's in red and blue is considered relevant. The only reason that we differentiate is because maybe there are certain things which might pop up, certain bits of information which might pop up more than one time under different subsections. But ultimately, you know, your decision is to decide whether or not the information is relevant to the recipient of the letter, in this case, the patient's GP, based on what you are asking them to do, which in this case is follow-up care for this elderly lady. All right, so you'll see what we've highlighted. So basically, you're the emergency department doctor at the hospital. The patient is very elderly. Okay, it's got her date of birth, so 1929. That would make her, you know, I guess around 90 or something. If my math is not correct, is correct. The admission date was the 7th, okay, so she wasn't kept in hospital, but certain things were brought to the attention of the hospital staff while she was in. So social background, she lives alone in a 2-story house, bathrooms upstairs, and she's got no stair lift. She has a supportive neighbour who observed some forgetfulness in this lady, and there was some atrial fibrillation present, okay, basically in the patient. This is something that was in her patient medical history. Then she basically, the admission details, the reason why she came in is because she had a fall at home and she lives alone. The neighbor heard her crying for help, fortunately, found her at the top of the stairs and she was unable to get up by herself. When she arrived at the hospital, she was oriented to place and person, but not date and day. So this is in terms of her, how oriented she was. Her neighbor also reported that this lady has experienced several recent falls which needed assistance, likely due to the location of the bathroom. So she was found at the top of the stairs. So she's an elderly lady. She's trying to get up to the stairs and she had a fall and she has no stair lift. And then they tried to contact the patient's children. They left a voicemail, so there was no one on the end of a phone. So it doesn't seem like there is someone on call in terms of support for this lady. And despite self-care concerns and recent falls. Okay, so the patient is still competent at decision making. So then they basically did some objective tests, okay, and the ones that stood out were trace leukocytes and also healing grazes and bruises. So if there are bruises present on the elbows, that would indicate, if bruises were already forming, that there had been some previous falls prior to coming into hospital as well, because it takes a while for bruises to show. So that would show maybe some other falls had also occurred. Then we've got the chest x-ray, ectatic unfolded aorta, borderline cardiomegaly, nil consolidation, pelvis and hip x-rays, nil fractures seen. So she hadn't actually sustained a fracture, so she was lucky, but a full blood exam of urea and electrolytes were normal. Then a thyroid function test was done and digoxin level test, midstream urine. So basically they've all been sent off to the lab. The results are pending. They'll be available on the 9th. So she's being discharged on the 7th. So in a couple of days, the test results will be ready. The discharge plan, in terms of what we want the GP to do, is to follow up the results, okay, once they are available, follow up with those. That's the follow-up care. And there's a query here from the hospital about a possible geriatric review, which means to basically assess the suitability of this lady living by herself, possibly, whether she needs home help, and then we've got a slash there, which means or placement in care, in a more sort of significant care setting. So that slash there is an or to indicate the level of help, but they would need to possibly get a geriatric review. And there's, you know, a possible geriatric review to establish the level of care that this lady needs. So let me just have a look in my chat box and see what comments we have. Okay, so Corey, thank you very much for your question. I'm new in here, so do we say repeated parts in our letter? Okay, just to be crystal clear, all right? Everything that is highlighted on the screen, red and blue, is relevant. That is what you're deciding. The only reason we are putting some of it in blue is to say, well, you might find some of the information in more than one place in the case notes. That doesn't mean you mention it twice. That's being repetitive. So if some information, like say, for example, well, I think it's just important to say chest x-ray is important to show that although she'd had a fall, okay, Nina, that there is no fracture present. So that is basically saying there was no fracture present. A lady of this age, very susceptible to fractures, especially if they've got osteoarthritis, right? So just to sort of say, no, there was no fracture, but it was checked, because that would be the first place probably you would go to in terms of a lady of this age with osteoarthritis who had a fall. You would want to check that, okay? Maybe an UTIA. That's a good comment, Mohammed. That would be, anyone else care to comment on what Mohammed has written in the chat box? In terms of content, not having the necessary content and putting in irrelevant information, which is marked down worse. Neither, okay? They're both taken into consideration, okay? I'm not going to put a number on it, Kwang. They are both assessment criteria that need to be met, okay? So that is built into the test. I'm not saying one is, you know, I'm not going to sort of say this is more important than these are the assessment criteria. So when you start to submit assessments, if you do one of our packages, you start to submit assessments, then you'll see where the expert assessor will pull you up if you've missed out something in the content. Say, for example, you're subscribed to a package and you're submitting your first writing assessment before you have a tutorial. Then they will pull you up and they say, you missed out some information, so you need to go back over that, back over the case notes. If you really can't find it, then it might be that you need some more help with the tutor. But if you've also been putting in irrelevant information, your assessor will be putting a line through it, and you'll get detailed corrections and feedback, not only on your writing, but on the assessment criteria. You'll get scored low, medium, or high on all of the micro points. So it's very detailed feedback, which should be pretty clear when you get it. Well, no, Andrea, you wouldn't mention osteoporosis, because remember who you are writing to. This is key. You're writing to the GP. The GP already knows this patient. You're referring the patient back to someone who already knows them. So they're definitely going to be aware of the osteoporosis, okay? There's no point telling the GP something that they already know. That's also part of the test. You need to think about who am I writing to and what do they need to know. So the osteoporosis, they'll know about it. This is their patient. So template, okay, be aware that there is no template. You always need to assess a patient on their, on their individual case scenario, and it's the same for the letter. So you will not be able to say, I'm always do this for this type of letter. You need to be answering the questions that I put up at the beginning of the letter to establish a clear purpose and upon which you will base the selection of your case notes. So you need to be super clear on that, okay? GP does not know about the cardiomegaly, okay? Is it relevant if it's normal, Syed? If it's normal, is it relevant? We're asking him to do follow-up care. So what are the areas of follow-up care? What we're really saying here is that we need to get the results of the test, but if something is normal, that's not required. That's not part of the follow-up that we're asking them to do. What we're really doing is in the discharge plan, we want them to basically follow up with the test results. So be very clear what you're asking them to do. And secondly, making some kind of assessment about whether this lady is okay to continue living in her current circumstances, because she seems to be at risk. Well, yes, they should know that she's living alone, but I think we need to contextualize basically the fall. I think if there's any uncertainty, you should definitely contextualize it, because the main thrust of this letter is whether or not this lady is okay to continue living by herself, or whether she needs help to come in, or whether she needs to be placed in some kind of care setting. So if you joined us late, I'm just going to remind you that at the moment we have a very popular package running, which is the Power Package. It basically includes an intensive 4-week study plan, unlimited access to these live classes, and then writing assessment, and also the mini mock test. I'm putting it up here because I also want to make you aware that you're also, when you sign up to this package, you have it for 6 months. And on top of this, you have access to all of the E2 language materials. So that's about 20 hours of preparation materials, overview lessons, method lessons, practice questions in all 4 areas of the OET: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And if you are subscribed to one of the packages, that means that not only can you have unlimited access to all the live classes, but you can go in on the student page and pull them up under the recorded section and review every single live class at your leisure at a time convenient to yourself. Now, we do have a lot of students on this package, and I just need to remind them that if you're participating in the May challenge, the deadline is tonight if you want to be eligible for prizes. So like I said, you have access to this package for 6 months, but if you're taking part in the May challenge, every week we're giving you a challenge, which is this week to submit your mini mock test, okay, to get your feedback and scores before 23:59, and that's Melbourne time, and then you'll be eligible for one of our prize draws, okay, and it's a $50 MasterCard voucher. So if you want to participate in that, there'll be a new challenge next week, but this is the end of week 3 today. So what I'm going to do now is look very briefly at the how to kind of outline the letter. Now, this again is in the if you go into the recorded section, which I'll show you later on, this basically is covered on the platform. Okay. So it's up there now. I don't know why it's all in faded letters, but anyway, so basically what you need to do is lay out the letter for OET purposes like this. We have a standardized, or rather OET have a standardized format, so that all the letters coming in from doctors all around the world, they're all presented in a similar fashion. Okay, so they're standardizing it regardless of how you may do it in your place of work. So the first thing, you need to get the full name and title of the person you're writing to, Dr. Arnold Ziemer, which is in the task, their job, general practitioner, okay, job title, then their address, then a line space, then the date. Now the date is always going to be the date of the actual test, okay? Then you're going to give the greeting, dear Dr. Ziemer, and then the RE line. RE means with reference to, and the full name and title of your patient. And depending on the case notes, that you'll either be provided with the date of birth or the age, and then you'll sign off, yours sincerely, doctor. Don't overthink it. That's basically the format. You can go over this in the course materials on the student page if you're subscribed to OET, E2 language OET. But yeah, basically that's how to lay out the letter. So we always have a couple of questions in here. So let me just check my chat box. So the the recorded classes, so they're done on a rotational basis. So the way the recorded classes go, Dupsy, is 24 hours after the live class goes out, those live classes get submitted. And they are, they don't go on for, 52 weeks a year. They are on a rotational basis, but obviously different questions come up and different focuses, and, the teacher's dealing with slightly different things. But yes, access to 10 different live classes with 10 different sets of case notes and 10 different focuses and 10 different areas to select. That should be more than adequate in terms of practice when you put that together with all of the practice materials on the website, and also your option to submit assessments if you are subscribed to one of the packages. So you do, if you're talking about commas, Aruna, if you put a comma after dear Dr. Ziemer, comma, then you will mirror that on the signing off, yours sincerely, comma. If you choose not to after dear Dr. Ziemer, then you need to mirror that in the signing off as well. Okay, so just make sure you do the same thing in both places. It's not a huge deal, to be honest. What goes in between the greeting and the signing off is really the key area that they're going to be really focusing on your language. Having said that, you do need to get the format laid out logically like this, okay? There are a few marks attached to not having it laid out correctly. So the guideline, 180 to 200 words, okay? It's a guideline. It is not the guideline. It is not written in stone. If you have written a few words over, but your selection is spot on in terms of what you've put into your letter, in terms of relevance, then it's not an issue. It's only going to be an issue if you've gone over the word limit, and that's because you've put a whole load of irrelevant information in there, then yes, of course, you're going to get penalized for that. The other thing I will mention is the style of the language needs to be concise, clear, and efficient. We're not going for unnecessarily long, wordy, convoluted sentences. We want clarity, we want efficiency. So that's what we're going for in terms of style. Mohammed, at the end, you can just write doctor for the test. It's absolutely fine, okay? Date of birth, someone's saying what is correct. I would put a colon after date of birth and then lay it out like we've done in the letter today. Okay, but these are details, and as you look at the recorded classes, this is put up every single week, guys. So there's a couple of variations of where things go, but ultimately this is the layout. So I wouldn't focus, the writing section is much more important. Do you need to put a doctor at the end, a full stop at the end of doctor? No, you do not. Okay, no, you do not. In the signing off, you're just going to put doctor. All right. So moving on, I want to now move into the other details paragraph. This is where the key issues with the patient have already been covered. So what else is relevant to sort of mop up any additional information that you feel might be useful for the recipient of the letter? So because of the timing, guys, I'm going to actually pre-provide you with some information for the other details. So we've got the name, we've got the admission details, and some social background stuff. So imagine you've already dealt with the primary issues, and I would like you to try and use some of this language to organize and write a nice, clear, cohesive paragraph. And I'll give you a few minutes to have a go at writing your own version, okay? Okay, so if date of birth is not given and age is given, then how to write? Same thing, you can write age, colon, and then put the age. It doesn't matter. If they give you date of birth, put date of birth. If they give you age, put age. Put one or the other. You don't need both, and you don't need to calculate the age if they give you the date of birth. All right? So I'm going to now just check out for a couple of minutes while you guys have a go at writing your own paragraph. Kwang, that is very detailed information. Can't go into it in that much detail. If you want to take a writing tutorial, please just add one onto your package. Book an appointment slot if you want to go over very detailed, individualized things about your writing, because honestly, I just can't do it with 60 odd students in the class, okay? But you have the option either by submitting an assessment, and then if you want more help, just to go ahead and book a tutorial. You can do it on adding on extras if you're already a subscriber, or it's included in the packages, the bronze, silver, and gold packages. You get a tutorial built into that package, okay? Cool. So let me just pop out for a second. Okay, so don't worry if you haven't completed your full paragraph. I understand that students are going to be, you know, doing this at their own, in their own time. That will come under language, Kwang. You just want to know, you're asking me a very specific question. If you make language errors and it is obstructing the clarity of what you're saying, then it will basically, or if it is an incorrection where you could be using linking language, which is more appropriate. So you need to be thinking about connecting, and I'm going to point out the features of that in the paragraph that I'm going to put up on the screen now. So you're asking me very like, if I use this, this, and this, yes, you need to be able to use linking language. Yes, you need to be able to combine bits of information which naturally belong together. Okay, so this comes under the cohesion of your paragraph. So let me just point out a couple of examples where it works well. So I'm going to let me just check the chat box settings. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be, it comes under basically conciseness and not writing unnecessarily. So if your language is very basic, let me explain it like this, and you're only able to write a sentence every time you have a case note, you write a sentence per case note. That is not organizing and combining and streamlining information for conciseness. Okay, so if you are unable to do that by linking and nice streamlined sentences, then that could basically impact your mark definitely on the language section. So yeah, you're asking me very specific things. So why don't you write a letter, submit a letter, and then I'll give you the specifics on your specific letter. But you know, it's an area of language that definitely you need to be on top of. So let's have a look at this. So what we've got here, we've got the information, and basically let's see how information has been combined. Attempts were made, nice passive there, to contact Mrs. Jenkins's adult children. So we've got the apostrophe after S to show possession, and messages were left. So we've got and connecting two things which are related, the contact and the messages, and we're using passive forms to show what was done. It's not important who did it. Next sentence. Her neighbor reported, so now we've switched to an active sentence, that she has had several recent falls requiring assistance, likely due to linking, having to move between the ground floor living space and her bathroom on the first floor. So we're using due to link this, okay? The falls are due to having to move between the ground floor and the living space, ground floor living space and her bathroom one floor above that. So yes, we're using due to combine those two things. That is an appropriate and correctly used linker. Yes, that is definitely going to add to the flow and the streamlined level of expression. The neighbor also, so we're adding here, observed evidence of possible cognitive decline. Okay, so possible cognitive decline would be the more formal version of some forgetfulness. Okay, so having that language, that formal language, because you're writing from one healthcare professional to another. So what I'm going to do now is I'm putting the whole letter up on the screen that you're more than welcome to take a screenshot of. So what we've got here, we've got the layout, very clear, okay, if you want to record that. Then we've got the basically the reason for writing. So it says your patient. So in this case, we're writing to someone who knows the patient. So we need to make that clear in the letter. Your patient, Mrs. Jenkins. So we're making it explicit that we know the GP knows this patient and they have the background on this patient. We just need to provide the new stuff. Will be discharged from our emergency department today following a fall at home. So we're updating the GP. While no specific injuries were found, using a nice complex sentence there with a comma to separate the two clauses, there are concerns surrounding her general level of self-care that we would like you to review. So that is the main thrust of this letter, is they're worried about sending this lady home. She's living by herself. They think she's at risk, and now they are discharging into the care for follow-up attention from the GP. Then we have the main information, the primary medical information, which is here. And then we've got some secondary information here, basically about other things which also are important for the GP to be aware of. and then we've got the request at the end, okay? So we covered this paragraph here, but we've got the prioritized medical stuff here, basically of what happened in the hospital and what she came in with, and then some secondary other useful information which you wrote or had a go at writing earlier. Then we've got the request about the geriatric review, polite language. She may require help or placement into care. That diagonal line means or. In addition, but that will be decided, by a geriatric team. In addition, please assess Mrs. Jenkins's test results, which will be available on that date. Okay, so now I want to move into another area of language. Okay, so we're looking at modal verbs today. So what are modal verbs? Modal verbs are helping verbs that help the main verb. Would like, okay, is a conditional. Might have, sustained. Might has the idea of possibility, and might have with the past participle of the verb is possibility in the past, okay, when it's uncertain, possibility in the past. The third example is Mrs. Schuler could not feel her fingertips. That is ability in the past, okay? She wasn't able to, she could not feel her fingertips, past ability. This one down here, Ms. Wright may require an MRI or a CT scan. So here, may, might, or could require would be referencing possibility in the future. So be aware of these modal verbs. You might want to go on and do some review work on the E2 language platform under core skills and grammar. Okay, if you need to review modal verbs, please do go in there. And there are 4 levels of grammar. Start working through them and make sure you're on top of using these for refining your level of expression, which is important. So some modal verbs are commonly used for a specific context. So we've got these two, have to and mustn't. So have to and mustn't are really strong obligation. So patients have to refrain. So refrain means stop. So you've got a positive verb with a negative, have to has positive meaning, but the second verb has a negative connotation. So you have to stop or you have to refrain from eating for 12 hours before surgery. And then we've got, you must not eat, okay? So this is, the must here is used negatively with a positive verb, eat. So you must not eat for 12 hours before your operation. So ostensibly, the meaning is identical, and they both express a strong obligation. So have to and mustn't. Bear in mind, must or mustn't only exists in the present tense. When we move into the past, we need to talk about had to, okay? But for this present tense, you've got both options here, and ostensibly the meaning is the same. Got 2 different examples of how you might use them. So modal verbs have to and must, obligation, strong obligation, and then we have a couple of examples in the table. The next one I'm going to highlight in the screen, and by all means take a screenshot of this. Can and could are to express permission and ability. So here are the 2 examples. If you can read the bottom line, that's ability. Mrs. Jones could not breathe, that's past ability, but you could use it for a request. Could I, or could she, or can you, that would be a request. Should and ought to are also obligation, but more like a suggestion, not as strong as using must and have to. So this is when you are suggesting something, advising something, not when it is so obligatory as you have to, you absolutely must. So you should not go into the ocean too soon after drinking alcohol. These pills ought to make you feel better within 30 minutes. So that's suggestion. Then you've got will and would. So that's for requesting and capability. Examples, polite request, for example, in the request paragraph, it would be greatly appreciated is very polite, and that's the style we're going for here. The test will prove whether the cancer has spread. That's for a basically a certainty in the future. Okay, when something is kind of certain in the future, we would use will. Okay, it will happen. There's a good degree of certainty there. Might and may, probability and permission. So the A&E might not be able to handle the number of casualties. There's again an element of possibility there, might not be able to, future possibility. And then may we adjust her medication? That is being used in a request format. So just a quick review. They may be areas that you might want to go on and do some study on our platform, but let's just put a few sentences on the screen and you can put your answers into the chat box. I'm just going to check my settings here. Okay, I'm just going to keep the chat box open. So please go ahead and have a go to insert what you think are the relevant answers in the gap. Okay. Okay, that's great. So I can see your answers are going into the chat box. Well done. I'm going to pop up the answers on the screen because we've already gone a few minutes over time. So I'm conscious of the time, guys. This is a 1 hour live class. So let's put the answers up and you can check them yourselves. The surgeon must perform the operation within the next hour to save the patient's life. Okay. So yeah, we're going to use must. Has to would be very similar in that instance. I'm not going to go into the finer points of the differences between those two. But yeah, must, okay, or has to. There's a very, very minuscule difference in terms of must is normally when you put the obligation on yourself, and has to is normally when it's an external influence, but it's so minute that basically I think either would be okay. Unfortunately, we could not find a suitable donor, so that's past ability. So we had to, that's strong obligation in the past, okay, must and have to go to had to in the past. We had to contact our colleagues in a neighboring hospital who told us they would try to help, conditional, that's if they could. While Mr. Singe may feel a little dizzy, his hypotension, so that's may feel, that's a possibility we're talking about in the future. He may feel a little dizzy. His hypertension will be better controlled. That's a surety in the future. Now that now present, we've switched, now that he can measure his own BP. That's ability in the present. So I'm highlighting, like I said, it's not a grammar lesson. We have fantastic grammar materials on the platform that you can review. And if you want to really get more help with your grammar, you're very welcome to book a tutorial. But all of the grammar sections, level 1, 2, 3, and 4, if you are a subscriber to E2 Language, just go on to the student page, log in, go on to the left, click on your course, OET Language, OET, and then you will see core skills come up. Click on that and it will open up into core skills and grammar, 4 different levels, plenty of grammar for you to go in there and do some practice and review. So yep, just basically final reminder, Power Package is great. It's still available. You can sign up for the Power Package. It's an excellent package. It's been super popular while we've been promoting it. It's still available. Go onto the website and have a look. Have a look at all of our packages. There might be something that you find more suitable, but this is great if you're getting started because you've got the mini mock test incorporated and the study plan. And basically, once you've completed the mini mock test, that will throw up exactly how you are performing in terms of your current level, and it will be then become clear as to, am I on task for a B in all 4 of the areas of the OET, or do I need to put my energy on, for example, my reading skills or more writing assessments, whatever it may be. It's a really, really useful exercise. Final reminder for those who are already subscribed to the Power Package and taking part in the challenge, if you want to win prizes, please get your mini mock test in today before midnight. That's Melbourne time. So finally, I'm going to just check my chat box. I just want to have a look in the... Okay, so I've got a very specific question. Some writing, but could not find what is meant by cap in the feedback. Cap means capitals, okay? So punctuation, it will mean capitals. So there'll be some issue with capitals. That is the abbreviation Quang, okay, in terms of the feedback. I just want to, before I say my goodbyes and let you know about my next live class, which will be tomorrow actually for reading, I've got some really good links up on the screen. So just be aware, you should be checking the OET official website, obviously, regularly for any updates. This is basically what the student page looks like when you log in. So like I said before, if you want to go on, if you're a subscriber and you want to go in, you click on OET course, you'll see writing, reading A, reading B, reading C, listening A, listening B, everything's there, speaking. You click on that. So if you click on the writing, you get the overview lessons, the method, the practice test questions. You get the test skills for grammar, which is what I was saying, if you want to go on and review your tenses that we looked at today, or maybe looking at your modal verbs. There are other things in there as well. So please do have a peruse in that section. And then the letter format, again, is gone over down here. Now, of course, if you want to sign up for any of the live classes, you register in here, okay? If you want to review anything that was gone out as a live class, it's regularly updated 24 hours after the live class goes out. Then you just click on recorded classes, and then you can go back over the materials yourself and take your time and yeah, just do any follow-up work that you think would be useful. So we've got some podcasts here to practice your listening, reading. This is really, really helpful. Just to let you know, tomorrow at 8 a.m. UK time, I give the reading class, which is very popular for reading skills, and I alternate on a weekly basis. So last week I was covering reading for parts B and C. Tomorrow I'll be looking at the techniques and the step-by-step method to process the and answer the questions in reading section A. And that is normally quite a heavily subscribed class. So you're very welcome to join me there if you think that would be something that would be useful. The live classes go out twice every day during the week. Myself and my colleagues, okay, are putting out the classes. So we do our best at E2 Language to put them out at 2 separate times to cover the different time zones. And I'm also repeating, and my colleague Judy has repeated the classes for writing on the weekend as well. So at E2 Language, we're really trying to sort of cover, you know, your availability. We understand you're very busy, you're working, you're trying to fit your studying around, you know, your work schedule. Totally understandable. I've been there, done it myself. So like I said, please do have a look on the website. Please do go on. There's an excellent blog page. I've written a couple of blogs in there. If you just click on OET blogs, some really useful blogs if you have the time to go on and have a look to pick up some more useful tips, not only on how to use E2 Language to the best of your, to get the most out of it, but also, you know, things to do with the OET test, things to do with tutorials, live classes. There's a whole host of stuff in there that if you have time, you're definitely going to find something worthwhile reading. So if you're going to go and check out the packages, also click on the blog page because it's a good read. So let me just see if I have any final questions because I do need to shoot off for my next gig. I will be doing the reading class tomorrow. Perfect, Mohammed. Okay, we'd love to have you there. Say hi. It is a super, super busy class. So again, in these live classes, we're dealing with large numbers. So for individual attention, please submit your work. Please go on and use the resources on the platform for practice. Start to build up some self-knowledge. The mini mock test is excellent for that. And of course, if you are already subscribing or thinking about subscribing to the Power Package, then after you've completed everything, you're thinking, you know what, I need a little bit of help in this particular section. Click on E2 Extras, add a tutorial, and then we can work with you one-to-one. Okay? So your problem is time, Nanuka. I understand. You're busy people, absolutely. But the thing is that you have the convenience, Nanuka, to basically, if you want to review any of the materials, you can do it at your leisure. Remember that you have access to this for 6 months, okay, if you're signing up for the Power Package. So 6 months is a long period of time to have access to everything, and you should be able to, in that time, fit your studying and your preparation around your timetable. Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye. If you're joining me tomorrow in the reading, fantastic. I'll be back on Thursday morning at 8 a.m. UK time for writing with nurses. And during the week, my colleagues will be putting out on every day, live classes for all of the sections of the OET. So you can check those timetables. Again, if you just click on the live classes, it will give you the daily timetable of what is available and the times. All right, so take care, stay safe, and see you guys soon. Bye-bye.